Welcome to Excel Boats on the X Podcast, powered by Mud Buddy Motors.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
The only podcast to bring you insights on the world of hunting, fishing, and boating. With your host, J. Paul Jackson.
You don't say much, do you?
Now, load up and sight in. This is On the X.
Welcome to the Excel Boats on the X podcast, powered by Mud Buddy Motors. I'm your host, J. Paul Jackson, and today I've got our National Sales Director, Mr. Dave Reynolds, with me as co-host. And we're also fortunate to have a very special guest from Cana Outdoors. Great production company, does some tremendous work, done a great deal of good work for us in the past, Mr. Ben Potter. Hey, brother, welcome to the show, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here and hang out with you guys for a bit.
Yeah, good talking to you, Ben. It's been a while. I think it was mid-November in Utah last time I saw you.
Yeah. It was I think right before it just absolutely dumped on us out in the layout boats there. So that was fun. I think I got a pretty authentic Utah layout boat experience that day.
That was one of the most miserable days of the year. It was rain and then turned into almost slush coming from the sky.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds very familiar, Dave. Do you baptize everybody in that way? Let me tell you, Ben, my very first trip. Yeah, my first trip to hunt on the Great Salt Lake with Dave, we on the second day we had one of the most memorable green-winged teal shoots I've ever had. 7 of us killed our 49 birds. Everybody limited out, but it was the exact same way. Layout boats started as rain, turned into just slush coming out of the sky by the end of the day. Terrible on cameras. I mean, camera guys just hate that crap.
Oh, yeah, especially hunting out of layout blinds. Yeah, I hunted the marsh that day. Fortunately, I had the cover of, cattails and phragmites, and I wasn't too far from you guys hunting. I was hunting for mallards.
Okay, yeah.
I heard you guys shooting, and I was thinking about you. I'm like, man, I would not want to be in a layout blind today. Even worse, trying to film a hunt in the layout blind, because, I mean, you're facing the sky. There's no place to hide in a layout in open water. When that wind and rain and snow comes in, man, it's in your.
Yeah, it was interesting because, usually you hunt geese or something in a layout blind, you put your back to the weather, and you can kind of work around it, so at least you got a little bit better cover with your gear. But man, the way the wind was blowing our boats, I mean, I was facing the storm, and it was literally, I was watching like the slush snow like take up my lens, and I had a pretty good rain cover over the camera. But also every once in a while it hits you. You're like, shit, I'm sitting here with a $40,000 camera in my lap and floating in like 5 feet of water. And I've never done this before, but I don't know. Those moments is when you're kind of like, you say to yourself, like, who else does this? Who else gets the opportunity to capture this kind of footage, and I feel like over the years you just grow to love those moments when it just things turn on you.
Conditions, I guess, huh?
What's that again, sorry?
Who else is stupid enough to be out there in those conditions, right?
Exactly. Yeah, most people would look at that and be like, you're a complete idiot, and like, why would you even put your gear through that? And I hope you're getting paid, and but it's just like you come out. I think more than anything, you got footage that is just so unique and foreign to so many people. And I mean, especially where I live here in California, we have a lot of duck hunters, and but we don't get, I mean, unless you're hunting way north, we don't get many days that get really gnarly like that, and I think when you get up north, more north, and out where you guys are, or even if you head up in Idaho or Montana or whatever, I mean, guys are hunting that kind of stuff all the time, and people that don't hunt, like, you guys are crazy. Why would you do that? But there's some, I don't know, there's a weird craving for suffering that I think we have as duck hunters, and it's just something unique to us that we just always enjoy. And so getting to capture it, I think, is that extra bonus, like preserving those moments and that memory. And so, I mean, actually some of that footage, I'm pretty excited to get out this year. And so anyway.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Don't forget
Sitka. Sorry, J. Paul. Your film for Sitka, right?
Yeah. So we were as part of, we were really excited and honored to kind of take on the whole wader project, capturing the different pieces for that new product coming out this summer. And so that was kind of one of the early stages of, we knew, kind of like looked at like, man, these waders are so diverse, and they're, like in the past I've bought waders that are extremely heavy for really cold weather and ice. And then, in California, I usually wear breathables. And so, you look at your closet, you have like 3 or 4 different pairs of waders for different scenarios. But one thing I love about these waders is really surprisingly, like they really do work in just about anything. And so we wanted to kind of target some different areas, different types of hunting to capture these waders using. So layout boats, that kind of hunting is something I'd never done. And so we saw some weather on the forecast, and, Sitka reached out as here's an opportunity. And I was like, let's do it. And it's kind of you kind of sometimes have to wait and just see if things line up with weather and what you're trying to capture. And so last minute we booked that trip and got out there and got out in the blind with a dude named Tony Smith and his guys and his friends. And so it was a great experience getting to witness. Yeah. We shot a handful. It wasn't like we piled them up, but man, I think more than anything, just that storm that just came out of nowhere. And just, I was frozen. I was just like frozen out there, laying in this boat, trying to my best to capture what was happening. And it's some of my favorite footage from the season. It's just raw, And I think if anything gets gritty and raw enough, for the camera, it's like you're going to be. That's the stuff that sticks, and the shots that you really remember. It's like you have plenty of sunny days with beautiful morning light. That's cool, and we'll always love to watch the sunrise. But I think when you can almost feel the suffering in a clip or in a photo of someone else, that's when you're like, man, it makes you want to be there, and it makes you feel a connection to the work. So we had that day, so that was pretty cool. I was pretty fortunate to be there. But yeah.
No doubt. It's funny you mentioned Tony Smith. He was also there on that day that I suffered through it like you did there in Utah. Yeah. Awesome. Oh yeah. Tony was my wingman that day.
Maybe it's a Tony thing. He's bringing the weather with him or something. But yeah, and it was cool too meeting a guy like Tony. So I grew up in California hunting ducks since 3 years old. So throughout the 80s, and just everything, hunting refuges for the most part, public lands, and then California Delta. And every once in a while you get an invite to a club, which would be really special. And, but for whatever reason, I grew up in like a family that we would always just kind of turn our nose up at divers. We just like, oh, here's a bluebill, let it go, or whatever, merganser it. And that was just never something we really aspired to kill, but me and guys like Tony, and there's been a handful of guys that I've met over the years, once, building this production company and capturing different stories, it's awesome to meet guys that are like absolutely sold out on hunting these specific ducks, hunting divers, and it's unique, and it really has, guys like him have given me like such an appreciation for the dudes that, the way they hunt them is totally different, the way they run their lines of decoys and off their boats. And, I think Tony back in the day was building boats to hunt these divers. Like I would never in my ever think of building a boat just to hunt a diver. You know what I mean? But it's pretty rad to see guys that, seeing their passion for these birds, I think has definitely worked on me and changed my perspective of the way I see those ducks. And like, wow, they all have a place and they're all unique in the way you hunt them. And for me, it wasn't just divers. Like sea ducks and stuff was never something I was super into. But even this last year, we're doing a film for Tangle Free out here in California, and part of that was capturing a brant hunt, out near the bay, and that was brand new to me, and that's in my backyard, and so I don't know, it's rad when you get to learn a little bit like that. The waterfowling community is so much bigger than just killing greenheads. You know what I mean? And it's always great. We'll always love greenheads, but yeah, it's bigger than that.
One of the great things about filming for Migration Nation all those years were the different ways that I got to see people hunt, and you're dead on right. And, what's really interesting too is, if you live out West, you think of, like Tony building Bonneville Layout Boats was his brand, and he built them strictly for divers. His handle on a lot of the forums and stuff was Diver Freak, but that's not just exclusive or unique to that area. I had the chance a few years ago to go and hunt on the Great Lakes for divers, and they hunt the exact same way. That Bonneville Layout boat is an old model that I think was actually originally developed either on the Atlantic seaboard, or I think it was developed in the Great Lakes region for hunting divers. It's called a pumpkin seed layout. And I've actually hunted out of a 2-man model where you got a buddy laying right beside you. Now, it better be somebody that you like, because you're literally laying there shoulder to shoulder in that layout boat. I had a camera guy with me on that trip, which was really cool. I mean, some great over the shoulder shots when I would raise up to shoot, and he would stay behind me. But, guys do that stuff on the Great Lakes. They do it. They're guys that hunt out of those layout boats up and down the Atlantic seaboard, Chesapeake Bay. And I saw some guys a few years ago with pumpkin seed layout boats hunting on Catahoula in Louisiana for canvasbacks. I don't know if you know this or not, but aside from Chesapeake Bay, Lake Catahoula in Louisiana is the largest wintering ground in North America for canvasbacks.
Interesting. Wow, I had no idea.
Yep, and they mostly hunt them there out of these blinds on the lake, and they dot the lake. They're everywhere, and they brush them with pine bows, green, pine too at that. So you see all these green piles of pine branches out there in the lake. It's kind of funny, but they do hunt them a little bit from the layout boats. So
wow,
it's kind
That's
of an
awesome.
all over thing. And I actually had a couple of buddies here in Tennessee that after they saw me filming out there for divers, and y'all don't just hunt divers out of them either, DJ. I mean, Dave, we were hunting green wing teal, puddle ducks.
Green wing teal, yeah, definitely. Green wing teal, shovelers. You could put them in just a little cover and kill, mallards and gadwall, widgeon. They're very versatile, very effective. They're just, so low profile. You could use them, back in the marsh or in just open water. And, obviously with the divers, you don't need any cover on these blinds. Just put them out in the middle of the water. Actually, I grew up in Southeast Michigan. You're right, J. Paul, in Lake St. Clair is where these boats became very popular. And there's a lot of custom boat builders in Lake St. Clair. The diver hunting is huge in that area.
Yeah, and a lot of them still build them out of wood.
Right,
Ben. That's really interesting.
Yeah, the closest thing me and my dad would back in the day we would drive north. So it's from the East Bay area originally. So we would drive about 7-8 hours up to Southern Oregon and hunt up there. And at one point we owned a fiberglass scull boat, and kind of probably the closest cousin to kind of what we did out there in Utah with you guys. And our whole idea with it was to scull in on honkers. And, it was kind of probably you're not necessarily very kosher with the way you should hunt honkers, but we had a great time doing it. It was fun, pushing in. If anything, we'd set up one guy, away from, where you push them to and push them over certain peninsulas or whatever. And, but that was a hoot in itself, just being right on the water and these birds just not really taking much notice to you and getting you shoot a handful. And I think if we shot 1 or 2 honkers, we were absolutely jazzed, and nowadays I feel like I'm spoiled. It's like if you're not having a 10 or 15 bird day, you're kind of, wasn't very good hunt, but yeah. So anyway, but that was the closest thing I ever experienced with being on the water with a boat. But yeah, good time.
We do it a whole heck of a lot. I mean, here everybody's got a boat blind, and it makes for some pretty interesting moments out there on the water too.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that you see too when you're really hidden there on the water are amazing. I was hunting on the Mississippi River, right off of it, in a boat blind and some willows, and we actually had apparently our blind so well disguised that we had a beaver that came up and started trying to strip some of the
No.
willows
Oh
that we had used to brush it with off of the line. And you hear this thing, you think it's coming in the boat, you know, and
Holy
unfortunately, unfortunately there had been a lull and we were just kind of all sitting there kind of half asleep. The camera guys had the camera down, so nobody got to catch it. And you hear the guy that we were hunting with shouting obscenities. And I'm like, what's going on? And look, he's like, damn beaver's trying to strip all the cover off of the blind.
Oh, that is awesome. I would have loved to capture something like that. Holy crap.
Yeah. On that same area, we did get lucky to capture probably, and I want to hear from you. Actually, tell me, what's the coolest thing that you've ever captured while you've been hunting that just you were there in the moment, right place, right time?
Man. Well, man, what I've ever captured, boy, that's a tough question, man. I mean, there's been, you know, I guess if I break it into, you know, with waterfowl, I think, try to think here, boy, the coolest thing, that's hard. There's so many moments.
Think about it.
Yeah. There's so many moments you think that they're all kind of special in different ways, you know. I think with waterfowl, boy, oh boy. I mean, the things that stick out to me are just our weather. You know, I guess that's what, you know, you can catch, there's plenty of like moments like kill shots and stuff. You're like, that duck just did it. They were 100%, you know, cupped wings, feet out, committed. You capture it, you know, however, as good as you can get it. And those shots are great. I like those. I mean, I'm into killing ducks. I'm not ashamed of kill shots, but they aren't the shots that necessarily I remember, I guess, if that makes sense. The shots that I remember, like there was part of a film we did last year. It was called Duck Trip, and it was real simple storyline. It was just we're going on an adventure, and we're going to hunt these 4 states, and we're going to see what happens. And so the way that
4 states in an Excel boat, by the way.
Yeah. And so,
don't leave that part out.
No. Yeah, it was. You know, they were bombing around these states, and you know, pulling our boats through every state. And you know, we got in one hunt where we set up on the hunt way down, I think about 6 or 7 miles down the Snake River and in Idaho. And it's just an absolute, I mean, my original goal for capturing it was, you know, I've been there once before and hunted it with a friend that lives up that way. And it's just these huge rock faces, and you're going down these canyons, you know, and as you go down, you're kicking up ducks and a little bit of everything. We've even seen deer running across the river, you know, and it's just one of those places you're just like, gosh, this is gorgeous. Well, when we hit it during filming Duck Trip, we were just basically riding the storm throughout our whole trip. Like, you know, we should have been driving the opposite direction, but we were driving into the storm. And when we were in Idaho on that segment, I mean, it's just started to really kick into a new level of, I guess, intensity. And so we're bombing down these rivers. I mean, it is sideways snow, and it was cold, and temperature was just shifted real fast, started really dropping. But we had a pretty good duck hunt. You know, I think we probably came out with 8 or 10 ducks. But seeing those rock faces covered in snows, and there was a few shots that I got, you know, on my camera just coming out that the rock faces are just starting to cover up with snow a little bit. So, you know, the boat is just bombing. It's just like encapsulated, like, this is what duck hunters are about. You know, like, we're willing to go as deep as we need to go, you know, and use all these tools provided for us to get in there, kill some ducks, and get into a place that no one really will ever go. You know, no one's going fishing on that day. You know, no one's going hiking on that day. And you're getting in the areas that you just can't access without a boat or without, you know, just the drive to do it, you know, and say, I mean, there's plenty of dudes I've met that in the camera world that, you know, they don't want to film in the rain, or they don't want to film in a storm. And I just feel like, man, you're missing out. Like, these are the moments that are really going to stick in your mind and your viewers' minds, is saying, like, how did they do that? And it's just a matter of, I mean, anyone can do it. I mean, I'm not unique. It's just a matter of, like, being prepared for it, you know, and being willing to use your business insurance if needed, you know. And it's just like, I don't pay thousands of dollars a year for nothing. It's like, if it means like a camera shuts down halfway through and I come out with some gold shots, then awesome. I mean, it literally did. I mean, as that trip progressed, we ended up heading up to Montana, and it was, you know, I've been hunting ducks my whole life, and the weather just plummeted, and we were hunting in negative 25 degrees, you know, with snow,
Yeah.
and it had about 20 mile per hour wind. And so the phone said, feels like negative 44. I was just like, holy crap, what are we doing? And this is funny too, because my dad, he was like my mule on that trip, and he still loves to tag along and stuff and just be a part of the action. And, you know, and so I was like, all right, I could use a hand if you want to be my mule and pull boats, pull gear, and shuffle people around. That would be awesome. So he's all about it. He's retired. And as we're setting up for that hunt, he's just like, comes up to me and he's like, hey, you got to tell these guys that this is not safe. This is not, you guys shouldn't be hunting today. It's just way too cold. I'm like, Dad, we all wipe our own butts here. Like, we're fine. And, you know, we're gonna, if somebody doesn't want to hunt, then they can sit in the truck. That's okay. And, but I think for all of us as hunters, we're just like, these are the moments, like, who knows if we're going to get into them. We might not. But just a challenge of getting to hunt in extreme conditions and see if that gear that is promised to keep us warm in any kind of condition actually works, you know? But it was interesting. The toll it took on my camera was definitely making some sounds it's never made before. And at one point, you know, batteries, when they get really, really cold, they just drain like really fast.
Oh,
and
they
so,
last no time.
Yeah. So this red camera I have, I mean, the battery, you know, if you're familiar with that camera, the batteries drain pretty fast as it is. I mean, it feels like you're starting a lawnmower usually when you start up the red, but you know, that cold weather just grabbed a hold of those batteries, and I was getting like 15, 20 minutes out of a battery, and just flying through batteries. But you know, it's just like, dude, I'd much rather do that with my gear and capture some stuff that's really going to be remembered than just do, I guess, what everybody else would do. You know, it's already been done. And you can't, you know, you can't control it. I think it's just you can't control the weather. You can't control your scenario, but it's just being willing to get after it if the opportunity presents itself, you know. And like I said, I'm not in no way want to say, you know, I'm the only one that does this. There's plenty of guys I know in the outdoor world that push it and get in the middle of it and get after crazy scenarios, you know, because they're, you know, they got hunter blood, and then at the same time have this creative desire to do it justice, you know? And so, yeah, it's cool, man. I feel like, yeah, anyway, I love it. It always inspires me. But.
No, I mean, when talking to you, it's always cool to talk to you and chat with you because you're so passionate about what you do. And, you know, that passion, it absolutely just comes through. And some of the work, I mean, the duck trip video short film was fantastic. That film really, I mean,
Thanks,
not only
man.
did it do a great job highlighting our product, but it highlighted what, you know, hunting and the camaraderie was all about. I love the setup that you did with the guys just sitting in the cafe, you know, talking to the waitress there, you know, sitting at the counter of a diner. And I mean, hunters, you know, so many times, you know, I've been in dives like that. I've got a good buddy, Rocky LaFleur, who sometimes co-hosts with us here.
Okay.
And Rocky did a series of podcasts last year where he just went from famous, you know, duck hunting dive in the Mississippi Flyway to duck hunting dive recording and talking about them and you know, places like the Blue and White down in DeSoto County, Mississippi, you know, a place that, you know, goes back way back. I mean, guys from Beaver Dam, Buckingham's old club, still eat there regularly during duck season, and the varsity in Belzona, Mississippi. And, you know, seeing those guys, the way you set that was awesome, man.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's, you know, like I said, it's just one of those things, you know, everything's kind of lined up on that trip to at least, you know, we killed a lot of birds on that whole trip. It was about 12 days of hunting straight, you know, so kind of the crazy thing coming off that, you know, speaking of weather and filming. So the week before I was in Kodiak, Alaska, doing a photo shoot for Yeti, and they, you know, we were doing kind of like a deal where you know, if you're familiar with Kodiak, you fly into Kodiak town, little tiny town, and then you take a float plane out of there and they drop you off in a bay and, you know, with our guide. And then we'd hike in about 5-6 miles to our base camp, set up base camp and hunt off out of that camp. And then the goal was the end of that hunt to float. We're camped right on this river. So we had like rafts that were dropped for us, up, you know, close to where we were camping. So the goal is once you're done with the hunt, we float, you know, 1,500 pounds worth of gear down this river back to the bay we landed in, if that makes sense. And then fly home. And so that was the plan. And I remember getting in there and so just get perspective. This is the week before duck trip to start filming. I'm out there and, I asked one of the guys, I was like, hey, do you ever see these rivers freeze, you know? And he's like, no, that never happens. The rivers are always moving plenty good. And this is a dude that lives on an island, like off of Kodiak, you know, and his family grew up there and all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, you know, coming from someone that lives there, you know, 5 days into the hunt, you know, we're all finished, you know, the guys shot a bunch of deer, an awesome trip, some great guys. And, so it got progressively colder. And by, I think it was the night of the fourth night of hunting, this huge storm was coming in and we got a call from the Coast Guard, you know, kind of make sure we're okay. And in Kodiak town, there was winds clocked over 100 miles per hour and they were flipping planes over in the bay over there. And, we were, you know, I don't know how many, probably, I don't even know, 7,500 miles from there, you know, hunting on this middle of nowhere where no one can get to us. And that night, sleeping in that tent, you know, that wind just started cooking up more and more and more to the point where I started putting my clothes. I was wide awake. It was insanely loud, and putting my clothes on because I could hear the stitching on my tent like ripping. And I was getting like, okay, I got to be ready for my gear to just all of a sudden this thing to be gone, and all my gear is exposed, and I want to be ready to cover it up. And so I'm like up and ready to go. And thank God that night it didn't rip in half, but throughout that heavy wind and that temperature dropping up out there in Kodiak, the river slowly but surely was starting to freeze on the edges and kind of freeze toward the middle. And so when we started packing up to get out of there, it was just these ice chunks were flowing down the river. And we ended up getting down the river about a mile. And then all of a sudden it was just solid all the way to the bay. And the river had froze over. So I'm not going to ask that question anymore if the river freezes, but we were stuck an extra, if long story short of like starting to feel the cabin fever a little bit, we were stuck and so we weren't like hungry, but we were starting to get pretty low and starting to contemplate, maybe we need to go shoot another deer because we need some food. And it was just got close to that, you know? And so 3 days later, finally the storm cleared enough to where they could get in there and pick us up. But we had to pack all that gear by, you know, on our packs out to, you know, back and forth. And it was just kind of a hellish situation. But I came right off of that and it right into duck trip. And my wife was not, you know, just hoping she'd still be there when I'm home. But, you know, it was quite a scenario. But thank God I was, you know, everything was fine, got in safe and, you know, got after this next run of weather. But it was just, man, I don't know. I look at those photos too and, you know, wasn't shooting any film on that, just photos. But those are moments that, you know, if I get back to your original question, just, I guess when I think of my favorite stuff, it's always when the weather kind of throws me a curveball that I'm not like prepared for, that forces me to be creative in maybe a different way than what I was initially preparing to do. You know, I think, you know, with the outdoors and wildlife and, you know, Mother Nature, you got to hold your plans loosely. You know, I think any
No doubt
hunter does that just hunting. You know, you're like, we're going to hunt here. But you got to, you know, you just kind of say, oh, maybe the birds won't be there that day. And same thing with filming, you know, you say, this is what we're here to accomplish. And, you know, big thing with our style and what we're after is we just want to tell it as it is, you know, as simple as that is. And, you know, I didn't invent that philosophy. It's just, I just feel like I resonate with content that is real, you know, that wasn't like curated to the point where it loses its soul. You know, like I love to see like real life hunting shot in a beautiful cinematic way. You know what I mean? And so that's that's what we're after. And it's a hard balance, there's, trying to do that, accomplish both goals of keeping it beautiful and cinematic and also real, and I just feel like, you got to try, because as a hunter myself, it's, you're always looking for something that's, you can relate with. And I think like when you see someone, even if the shot isn't shot perfectly, but you see it like a moment captured, in the field, that's the kind of stuff that really, I don't know, it resonates. And so.
And that shows through, the authenticity always, to me, is shown through in your work, and, just awesome stuff. And I've loved, by the way, guys, you that are listening, if you want to check out, and I've always wondered, it's Cana, not Cana, correct?
Oh, correct. Yeah. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I don't care. We'll still be friends, but, but yeah, Cana is the name. Yeah.
Yeah, Cana, it's spelled C-A-N-A, Cana Outdoors. You can Google and find loads of great films from Ben. Of course, you can go to Yeti Films, and, a lot of the work there is Ben's work. It's authentic. It's great. Sitka gear, some good stuff for us. And, of course, we appreciate being included in road trips so much.
Yeah.
But, and then you've got your own Vimeo and YouTube channels also, correct?
Yeah, I have a Vimeo, and YouTube. Honestly, I do a pretty sorry job of YouTube, just because a lot of our work is for our clients, and
Right.
and we don't want to be doubling down on uploading too much of the same thing, So a lot of times we just like to point people to, our clients' pages, if that's that's you guys or Sitka or Tangle Free, whoever we're working for, and. Yeah. So,
And I've also found a lot of your good stuff on Waypoint TV as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those dudes, reached out a while back and wanted to share some stuff that we've done in the past. And I was like, yeah, man, the more stuff gets out there for people to enjoy them, that, I'm stoked about that. So it's, that's why we do it. And, first and foremost is, we want to do it for the hunting community, and it's cool that companies like yourself will support, filmmakers like me and to tell these stories. I mean, that's just like, it's kind of the dream job, I feel really, really blessed to get to do what we do. And, but it's also great when you hear from guys that really are stoked, it gets them that much more stoked to get after what they're passionate about. That's the reward, I think, is when you hear that kind of thing, that talk and stuff. Yeah.
No doubt. I tell you, we're very blessed to get to do what we do. I love what I do so much. I haven't really been to work, for 20 years. Wow. And, you just look forward to it. And speaking of being stoked too, at the top of the show before we started, I mentioned that we're pretty doggone stoked right now here at Excel Boats, aren't we, Dave?
Yes, we are. Some big news. Definitely big.
Yeah. Ben, you were in Tennessee in Nashville, and while you were there, the folks from Nashville, the governor and the commissioner of economic and community development, they were all here in my neck of the woods yesterday. You can check it out on our Facebook page. We did a Facebook Live, but we made a huge announcement here in Tennessee yesterday. Glenn Foreman, our owner, CEO, and fearless leader, and his lovely wife, Connie, were here in town, and Governor Bill Haslam. We were all up in Ridgely, Tennessee, where we announced that Excel Boats is fixing to build. We're going to build our second. We're keeping our plant in Mountain View, actually expanding it, but we're about to build our second manufacturing facility this year right here in Tennessee. So we're really excited.
Yeah, we're really stoked. We have, introduced some bigger boats, the new Stormcat, the new 230 Bay Pro, which is, a much wider boat, 102-inch beam. You can put our older 220 Bay boat inside this boat. So these bigger boats are requiring more room and a new plant, and we're looking at expanding into other boat categories. So it's exciting. It's it's going to be a new facility, and perhaps 8-9 months we'll be rocking and rolling, right, J. Paul?
Man, I'm pushing it as fast as I can right now. We hope to break ground in July, and we hope to start construction by the end of the first quarter, early second quarter in 2019. This is going to be a state-of-the-art 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility. We've got a job creation goal of almost 200 jobs in the next 5 years. And honestly, after yesterday's turnout and the response that we're getting, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I know here, if the boat business stays for us the way it is, the facility, we could put up to 300 people to work in it. And that is a very real possibility down the road. So, we're really excited.
Yeah, and speaking of job creation, I noticed in the layout of this new facility, one of the biggest offices, I think there's like a hot tub in the corner. TV is J. Paul Jackson's office. So J. Paul is officially Excel's business operations manager as of yesterday, right, J. Paul?
That's right. I was the first job created in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And, I've worked with the company in so many different capacities over the last several years. It's such an honor. It was an exciting day yesterday, and it's really neat to go from being a 1099 employee to a W-2 employee of Excel Boats. And,
Right on.
the faith that Dave and Glenn, and I'll tell you, this would not be possible without you either, Dave. I was telling Glenn and Connie the story last night of a few years ago when I thought that my time with Excel, because my time in TV it was time to come to a close, and hanging up the phone with you and you calling me back 30 minutes later and saying, "Hey, man, we're having a good time. Let's keep on doing this in some way." And that's grown into this great opportunity today. So it not only was a big day for Tennessee yesterday, but, personally, it was a big day for me. It looks like I'm going to continue hosting the Excel Boats on the X podcast, powered by Mud Buddy, for quite some time now. That's listed in my job description as part of my official duties with Excel Boats. So
we're excited to have you as an official member of Excel. I mean, you've always have been, but to be an official employee is exciting news. And it's funny how things work out. You think go through ups and downs in careers, but things usually work out for the better. And this definitely worked out well. Partnership with you, and now you can't go anywhere else, J. Paul. We got you locked in.
Right on. Maybe I won't be traveling quite so much, except for between here and Mountain View. But Ben, that also means I'm going to continue working with the marketing department too, and we look forward to maybe working with you some more in the future. We love your work, and
thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time to be on with us. I've got one question that I ask a lot of our guests, particularly that are duck hunters. So. So if you're out there and I sneak over to try to rummage through your blind bag and find a snack, what am I going to find in Ben Potter's blind bag?
Well, I think it'd probably be a mixture of protein bars and Mike and Ike's. And that's probably my go-to if you're referring to snacks and face paint. So, yeah. And but yeah, man, I don't know. It's an ever changing, black hole of rummage. So, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, you can tell he's a Southern Californian too. Here in Tennessee, you go looking at ours and you're gonna find, Hostess cupcakes and Christmas tree cakes, Little Debbie's, and beef jerky and sausage and biscuits. Sometimes the other day, I'm laughing because the other day I got into my blind bag. I was looking in there for a duck call on my lanyard, and there was a dead-gum petrified sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit that apparently I'd bought the last day of duck season in my tangle-free blind bag. But, it's good to hear that you're going to live a lot longer, good, healthy stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. We'll see, man. There's probably a little bit more candy it needs to be.
Candy,
What's that, Dave?
I usually have stale Halloween candy, from my boy.
Oh,
I can see that.
Chocolate that's turned white, it just gets better with age, though.
Yeah, nice.
I know something I see in my yard that turns white with age too, but I don't think I want any snack that does that. All right, I'm going to cut it off at that note. Ben, we've ran over time with you, kept you longer than we promised. I apologize for that.
Oh, it's all good.
It really has been a privilege to have you on here as a guest today and to get to share the big announcement from yesterday, with you here with us too. So that's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Congrats, man. I mean, I'm super stoked for you guys, the growth and just leading the way. I mean, it's been an honor working for you in the past, and yeah, always up to continue to do stuff. So thanks for thinking of me.
You're very welcome, buddy. Man, Dave, thank you for joining in and helping
Welcome.
me out today. Always great having Dave here. Of course, you're becoming pretty dang regular at this too, Dave.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And you're pretty good at it too. Yeah, glad to have you. But thanks again, Ben Potter. Thanks, Dave, for joining me, and thank all of you for tuning in to this edition of the Excel Boats on the X podcast, powered by Bud Buddy Motors.